the things that you have in your heart that you think are impossible are often just milestones waiting to get accomplished if you can push those limits. Everything was impossible until somebody else did it. So you can either hang around people that tell you it can be done, or hang around those that inspire possibilities. Welcome to the Inspiring Possibilities Podcast. Weekly interviews with entrepreneurs, artists, those that inspire possibilities. And I'm your host, Julian Marion. All right. Welcome back. So in this episode, we're going to talk about empathy. Practical strategies for understanding it, caring, and connecting. Right? That's my official title. Empathy. Practical strategies for understanding, caring, and connecting. Right? That should be a good SEO title. But in all honesty, that's what this episode is about. Empathy is obviously something that has been used a lot as a catchy word and something that a lot of people talk about, but I don't know if a lot of people actually practice it. For me, I've been thinking about the concept of empathy and really thinking of, am I just somebody that does not have a high level of empathy, right? Or do I just not know how to show it, right? I mean, whenever you think about empathy and we're going to go into it in a little bit here, but we're talking about being able to feel where somebody is feeling, to see different perspective, right? And oftentimes people that have not traveled or see different cultures or had different experiences, from happy to sad to depressed to, to feeling high level of anxiety, cannot put themselves in the shoes of those people, right? And therefore cannot connect, and therefore cannot have empathy for those people, right? But I feel like I've had so many different experiences in my life, right? From living in 3 different continents, moving multiple times. I've had some super high highs and some super low lows. So I was just asking myself, like, why then can I not show, to those close to me, a high level of empathy, right? So I kind of got on this, this little journey to, to go and figure that thing out, right? And to get tools to be able to use so that it's not a yes, I care, but it's the showing that you care, right? And especially in this day and age, which is more of a non-face-to-face, right? Like, you have to be able to show empathy in maybe a direct message, an email, a text message, right? Which those are hard, right? Because you're removing facial expression, you're removing tonality of voices, right? And like, I can say okay, but really the way I wanted to say was okay, right? Like, tell me more, okay, right? But if I just said okay in a text message or DM, it doesn't come out the same, right? Obviously, I can use emojis to be able to show that, it's a caring okay, or it's a concerned okay, or whatever. But it's still, the level of communication is more complex. So in this episode, I want to talk about that and give you some tools to be able to use some some phrases, you can use whenever your heart is pure, your heart is right. That, you have a high level of empathy. You just don't know how to show it in a text format. Okay. So first, let's establish some baseline, right? The first one is, empathy is not just an emotional response. It's an act of care and understanding, right? It's an act of care and understanding. And obviously it's important to put yourself in, someone else's shoes and try to understand their perspective, right? Like, I love, there's a story of a professor, and he was trying to teach perspective to students. And what he did, like, he had a cube, and on one side it was painted black, on the other side it was painted red, and then he would just put the cube perfectly in the middle of the table and had 2 students facing each other, and he would ask them, like, what color do you see, right? And the first one would be like red, and the other one would be like black, right? And they're just confused, right? Actually, I think they had to go. You show a couple of cubes that are just full color, right? And then you put a cube that look exactly the same, except on each one of the two sides where the students are facing, it's a different color now, right? So their perspective was the cube is a full color, but he gives them a cube that is different. So anywho, they're both looking at the cube, but one is like seeing red where the other one is seeing black, and they don't understand, right? And so they're getting mad at each other. They're just like, no, this is the color that I'm seeing, until he turns the cube, and now they see a different perspective, right? So the whole lesson there for them was like, hey, unless you are looking at this problem the same way as this person, you cannot see their perspective, right? From your angle, it's red. From his angle, it's black. And so you cannot trying to convince this guy that it's red, because for him, what he sees is black, right? So you have to get up, go to where he is, and see, because then your perspective will be different, right? So it's understanding their perspective is very important. 3, being mindful of our own biases, right? I think that is such a big one. One is to understand that we have scotomas, right, which are also called blind spot. Scotomas is kind of like more of a term that's used in psychology. So blind spots, like for example, like when you that's the best example I have. If you ever bought a car, right? You're there and you're like, oh, you look at that car, you're like, wow, I love this car, right? I think it's unique. And then as soon as you buy it, you start to see 5 or 6 of the same car, same color, almost in a row. Now, have things around you changed? Most likely not, right? It hasn't changed. But it's just the fact that now you have removed a blind spot, and you can see it, right? Like our body, and when we're created, it's designed to be able to filter information, right? Because if it didn't filter information and we received everything all the time, we would just go crazy, right? Because we'll never be able to focus. It would just be like more and more and more, information. And that's sometimes what people that, have ADD, ADHD have, which is like they're so much more sensitive to what's happening that they're constantly getting stimulation, coming to them, that they can't focus, right? So we create those scotomas, those blind spot, right? But in the context of empathy, that doesn't help us because we create biases behind it, right? So we need to practice empathy to ensure that we are accurately understanding someone else's feeling, right? And on the next episode, I will talk about feelings, because Mallory and I, my wife, had a long discussion about feelings, and that was great. And all right, so another one is, for compassion, is understanding and accepting someone else's feelings, and that they are a key component of true empathy. Right, so it's understanding their feelings, because it's a true component of empathy. Empathy can also help build stronger relationship between individuals and increase collaboration with teams. Right, that's true as well. In order for a team to feel safe and connected and being able to move as a unit, you have to have a higher level of empathy within the group. Right. Empathy is also essential to creating a safe environment, for honest and open communication. Showing empathy can also reduce misunderstanding and conflict between people, right? If I can see your perspective, if I can understand your feeling, then therefore the level of conflicts, or the amount of conflicts we will have, will diminish. Because if I don't, then I'm gonna have assumptions about why you're doing this, and maybe that you want to just hurt me, or you just don't care. Right? Empathy is an essential component of personal growth, obviously, right? That's something that anybody that is interested in personal growth has to go through learning about empathy, because it brings you closer to people, and in personal growth, which is very tied to leadership, it's our job to take care of our people, the people that we lead, right? So your next question might be, okay, cool, Julian, thank you for this little backstory on empathy. Now, how do I become more empathetic, right? So how do I build more capacity for understanding and caring for others, right? So this is a quick one, okay? So to become more empathetic, or have more empathy for people, can start by spending more time listening and understanding other people's perspective, rather than simply offering your own opinion. I think guys do that very fast, right? Trying to solve a problem. Instead of fully understanding what is said, we try to find the solution, the loophole, the angle that we can take to solve the issue, right? So practice, practicing actively caring about how others are feeling and trying to put ourselves in their shoes. I know that can sometimes be hard if you've never experienced it, and that's where asking questions come into play, right? So that you can fully understand how is somebody feeling. It's almost like if you were to be blindfolded and somebody's telling you something and you have to to do something based on the information that you receive, you're going to ask as many questions as possible to be able to understand what is said, right? So that's something to, to use, as a tool. So now the next question you might have is, okay, cool. But how do you show more empathy via text messages? Ooh, okay. Right? We have some people that love to text paragraphs. You have others that love to respond 2 words, right? 3 words. Or not even words, just an emoji. That might be more of a me thing, right? And so, although we know that text, like I said, text message and, direct message and stuff is not the best communication, to solve problems and, and so forth. We know that in this day and age, it is one that is used very often to troubleshoot issues, to resolve conflict, right? And so if we don't know how can we show empathy in a text message, then we are screwed. We're at a disadvantage. Right? So here you go. So to show more empathy via text message, right, what you can do is focus on using language that conveys understanding, support, and care. Right? You can use phrases such as, I'm sorry to hear that. Right? That must be hard. What can I do to help? Right? So I'm sorry to hear that. That must be hard. What can I do to help? Right? But you have to try to avoid like the one-liners. Again, that's the Julian one-liners, right? Like avoid the Julian answer. Always trying to opt for like a longer response, something that shows that you're really taking in and processing the other person's thought. Like you're showing support in your text messaging. And again, that's not always easy, right? But by using some of those already, I'm sorry to hear that. That must be hard. What can I do to help? Those will move you forward already. Because you can use those to be able to show empathy. It's not like a cheat sheet or anything like that, but it's a way that you can show empathy inside of a text message, direct message type scenario, right? Now, a question you might have, like, okay, cool, Jen, like now I'm in it. Now I'm in that conversation. I've showed empathy, inside of it. But I struggle with what to say to end, my conversation, showing, that I have empathy, right? So what else can you say? All right, so here are a couple of other sentences you can use, right? So I understand how you feel. Again, you have to understand how they feel, right? Don't say I understand how you feel and you don't understand how they feel, right? That's a question you can ask, like, how do you feel? Once you're told how somebody is feeling, you can ask like, okay, I understand how you feel. Or, that sounds really difficult. I hear what you're saying. How can I help? I'm sorry that happened. I'm here for you if you need to talk. I know this must be hard. Let me know if I can do anything to help. All right, I'm going to say it one more time in case you want to, to write it down. I understand how you feel. That sounds really difficult. I hear what you're saying. How can I help? I'm sorry that happened. I'm here for you if you need to talk. I know this must be hard. Let me know if I can do anything to help. And again, as I'm as I'm kind of saying those, I know some people that are listening are probably saying, "Wow, really? Like just this is how like people then they're going to fake like they're showing empathy." But I don't think that to be true. I'm sure some people might abuse it, but I don't think that to be true. I'm just using myself as an example of someone that I believe has a high, I'm not going to say a super high level of empathy, but I have a good level of empathy. But it's not shown to people, right? And oftentimes I'm here and I'm like, I have a high level of empathy, but I just don't know how to show it, especially when it comes to a text message, right? Like it's a harder one to do. So it can come back as cold or, just lack of empathy, right? And there, if you have a lack of empathy, then you have you cannot connect easily with somebody else. And so therefore, like your relationship is not as strong as what they could or should be, right? So now something else you can do. So like we're there, I kind of give you some sentences that you can use inside of it, but how do you end, this conversation? So obviously at the end of the conversation, always trying to, thank the other person, for sharing their thoughts and feelings with you and let them know that you're available if they need anything, right? But you can also show even more empathetic support by saying something like, take care of yourself. I hope you feel better soon, right? Because this will show that you genuinely care about their well-being, right? And obviously you can always follow up. I mean, that's always something, that is important. So quick recap, right? So to start a conversation, you can say something like, I'd like to hear more about that. Can you tell me more? Because these phrases always encourage the other person to open up and share their thoughts and feelings with you, right? While you inside that conversation, you can use different sentences, like, I understand how you feel. That sounds really difficult. I hear what you're saying. How can I help? I'm sorry that happened. I'm here for you if you need to talk. I know this must be hard. Let me know if I can do anything to help. And then for ending the conversation, you could say something like, I'm here if you need to talk, or take care of yourself, because this will show that you care and are willing to help if they need it, right? So all those are just tools that you could use to show more empathy to someone in a text or message format. Whenever you're, maybe you're on Facebook and you're messaging with a friend, or you're text messaging somebody and you really want to show support, but you feel like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know what to say that is not going to come off, the opposite of someone that has empathy, right? Lack of empathy. So those are all tools that you can use, right? But if you have any other tools and things that I didn't list on there, and you're like, hey, Julian, this is a great tool. This is something that somebody should really, use. I'm big on like actionable items, things that I can actually use, to move forward and not just like theory. So try those on and let me know how it works. And I'll talk to you soon. Peace.